Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Gaming Daddy channel. So today I wanted to go ahead and make a very detailed admission of my error. Big time. I was wrong about the nature of the next generation consoles, the influence, and I misjudged a lot of things as this new generation console releases were building up. I thought that Microsoft was going to really drop a huge hammer in this console generation, but I think I may have misunderstood their strategy, or maybe just I thought it was going to be bigger than what they were burrowing down into. So Microsoft dug down. I thought they were digging down and expanding, but I think they dug deeper. In regard to Sony and the PlayStation 5, I thought that they were caught flat-footed, but I had not evaluated how much of a PlayStation influence they have on the market, and even how much of a PlayStation influence they have on myself and my household. And so all of this was for me taking it for granted, and I'll explain in detail as we go over this video. And then I see myself in a place where I now have a PlayStation 5 when I said I'm going to get a PS5 closer to when God of War Ragnarok comes out rather than now. And I'm sitting here, my PlayStation 5 is right beside me, probably laughing. Now let's do some talking. So first of all, if you're looking for a PlayStation 5, I would recommend that you go through, there are some websites that actually have access to inventories of some stores. You'll have to do a little bit of digging and a little bit of searching. But I've noticed that a lot of towns around me, but I have to drive at least an hour, actually do have some units inside of their stores. The only thing is they will not put it on the show glass. So you probably have to do some digging, like asking managers or calling the stores and speaking to a manager in the electronics departments. This is how I got mine. A friend of mine said, yo, they have some in so-and-so town in this state. We drove across the border of our, to the other state next to us, and we were able to get PS5s. When the manager of the store brought out a PlayStation 5 for my buddy, my face changed. I became a child, and I said, can I have one, please? And so it was really interesting that I got one, and I really misjudged the fact that Sony and PlayStation has already been a part of, our family gaming, even as a PC gamer. By the way, if I'm not trying to toot my horn, I do production, so I was able to get an upgrade this, holiday, right before the summer. I was able to upgrade to a Ryzen 9 and a GTX 1080 Ti. I'm not ready. Thank goodness I didn't buy a 2080 or 2080 Ti before the 30s came out. So I'm sticking with the 1080 Ti, and that's perfect for what I'm doing, honestly. And so I think I have a decent computer that can do what I wanted to do. And yes, I am a PC gamer, as you want to, put it, but I've always been that PC gamer that enjoyed console gaming as well. And yes, I understand Microsoft has tried their best to really, hone down on that PC market. But here's the thing, the console generations launched with a sparse quantity of games, just like the last one did. I mean, right now we're sitting on about 2 or 3 or 4, console exclusives. PlayStation 5 has Godfall, it has Demon's Souls, and it's got Spider-Man Upgrade. Then you also have some other games that are going to be, available to play at higher frame rates. As you're watching this footage here, it's a footage of Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider on the PS5, and it's playing at almost 60 frames per second. In fact, by the time you're watching this video, I'd have released a comparison between my GTX 1070 based gaming PC and a PS5, and there is almost no difference to the eye. And if you haven't watched that video, there should be a link in the description if I remember. If not, just scroll back to my video maybe a few days and you'll see that video. And so getting a PlayStation 5 was such a natural change that I updated everything so fast. I went ahead and did the transfer. Both games are on the same network. It just transferred all of my files, my progress, my games that were currently installed, all of my, I have another PlayStation account I play Mortal Kombat in. And so that seamless transfer wasn't even something I was thinking about, but then it started to grow on me way faster than I would have thought. And I underestimated that many people still dig their consoles regardless, and Sony had a very solid strategy, which I had taken for granted. And that was the fact that they were really trying to hold on and harness their core community and keep them even more satisfied. And then even some news came out, which basically was leaked information. Not a real big fan of leaked information. I prefer official statements, but it's not surprising this kind of leaked information. And the leaked information is that, Sony understands that single player games are their biggest selling cake. And for me, I'm a huge single player gamer. Yes, my channel covered the Division and the Division 2 for years, but when I'm in my off time, I'm usually somewhere playing single player games, and there's a better incentive. My wife also loves a lot of these single player games. The ones where you run around, look for objectives, there's an open world or semi-open world for you to explore, there are puzzles. These are the things that, we do on date night sometimes. We just sit down and play a game like Jedi Fallen Order and solve puzzles, or Uncharted, or, Tomb Raider. These are some of the, the fun times that we just have hanging out. And so that part of, our gaming experience is just extended and expanded by, the Sony, platform. And I see now that Sony is not going to be easy to topple over when it comes to dominating the console market, because there is a segment of gamers that enjoy exactly what Sony has curated to offer. And it's unfortunate. I wanted Microsoft to really play some hardball, which they did. I'm going to also credit Microsoft. They did play some hardball, and Sony did step up their game, because on getting this PlayStation 5, PlayStation Plus owners, we got access to a PlayStation Plus thing that just granted us a bunch of games right out the door. And Days Gone is also among those, which is a game that I was also wanting to play, but I never really got around to. And so that's a game that I got for free. Some other games that just, kind of were given to people who had the PlayStation 5. We have access to those games. That was really nice to be able to get a console and not be empty-handed. So if you were ever moving from Xbox to, PlayStation 4, you were getting that package. And even if you were moving from PlayStation 4 to Xbox, yes, you were getting the Game Pass. But as a PC gamer, I already have Game Pass. So it really didn't make any sense, for me to worry about what Microsoft would have been doing. But I thought they had a very strong position. They also had the, All Access. All Access was going to be that thing that allowed for people to come into the console purchase, at a smaller price point, but then hit with all of the, logistics of not being able to deliver consoles. That also hurt them. And Sony seems to have still gained the edge because of what I said, which is the core aspect of Sony, basically keeping their own fan base. And so I was totally off, just because I didn't envision a lot of these things, and many of them were right under my nose. And it's like, it's nice to get a slap in the face once in a while to basically understand that, sometimes the answers and sometimes the key could be right in front of you, and you could totally just miss or misjudge that. Because I've also been doing some searches, and I found out that even in my hometown, that there are some Xbox Series X's in some of the stores, and they're just not laying them out. I bet if I ask a manager, they'll probably have them at the back or something. They have them in limited stock, and I still would not have been moved the way I was actually moved to get a PlayStation. I literally dinner, like I just told my wife, babe, PS4, this down over 1 hour, please. She said, sure. I said, all right, pick me up. Got in car, boom, PS5 or something like that. That's just how it happened, and that's just basically where, as gamers, it's really interesting to understand that these companies really know exactly what we want, because we tell them, when you fire up the game and play 10, 15 hours of it, they know they're going to make another one because you just played 10 hours of a single player game. And the single player games are here to stay, even to the point of forcing EA's hand to make a single player Star Wars game after having made a Battlefront game, and making a second somewhat single player Star Wars game, which is the Star Wars, the Squadron game, somewhat of a single player, but then has some PvP aspects to it. But that was a huge change in the entire dynamic after Anthem. EA moved towards getting that game out. Now, yes, the game had been in production for about 5 years, to about 2015. My guess is the game was in a concept phase. And by 2017, when Battlefront 2 had that huge, backlash, they probably told Respawn, get this game rolling fast so that we can have a good game, a single player Star Wars game, because fans want this. And EA, who had said in some memo or some letter that, oh, you remember when they closed down Amy Henning's studio, and they said, well, we just found out that from testing a lot of our single players games, people didn't want those experiences. They wanted more replayability and all that stuff. That was a bunch of jargon. Because they also most likely either missed it or were ignoring it. And so that's where gaming is. People at the core still want those experiences, and, it was really interesting to just start looking at the offerings of these new consoles, because now what you would spend money on a PC to build to get, good gaming performance, 60 frames per second is a big deal. For those of my guys that play on PC, you are very, very, inundated in good graphics and playing PC games in many cases, not everyone. And so you don't really understand what it means these days to come from 30 FPS. You've been in the 60, 80, 100, 120 FPS, 4K for such a long time that for many people, you're talking 100 or so million, or over 100 million people. This is the 100 million people who played the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 4 Pro. If even 70% of them migrate to the PS5, their minds are going to be blown away as to how powerful this change and this leap is in technology, where in our lifetime, we're seeing consoles do what a gaming PC can actually pull off. And then somebody said in one of my comparison videos, they reminded me that PlayStation runs on the Linux OS, which is one of the more, it's the joy of a lot of people who do a lot of tasks, like programmers and, people who love to do more personalized computing on the back end. And, front end's not really, it doesn't need to be too flashy, but the Linux side of things really makes a machine work very well. I once had one machine that had Linux on it, and I couldn't really understand much of it. That was the only thing. But I remember that computer being old hardware from about 6 years ago, but firing up so much faster than any Windows machine that I had. And so when you kind of blend all of this together, man, Sony understands what gamers do want. From years and years of trial and error, I think they definitely know what their base is about. I think they're done making mistakes. I'm talking serious mistakes from the PlayStation 3 days. And so this is good. I mean, I'm glad, as a PlayStation person on the core who was open-minded to the Xbox ecosystem, still am. Don't get me wrong. If Microsoft were to offer something pretty cool, I might, be able to maybe not snag, one of these Xbox consoles. But I'm open-minded to them, to what they have to offer, and I will continue to actually support them. I'm keeping my Game Pass membership because I want them to continue to keep Sony on their toes so that Sony never has to go sedentary on us or go apathetic. We need Sony to continue to hone down their craft. A lot of these games that made the PS4 be big deals need to start showing up on the PS5 in the form of sequels. You're talking God of War Ragnarok. You're talking another full-fledged Spider-Man game. You're talking Horizon Forbidden West. You're maybe looking at something along the lines of Uncharted. I mean, yes, even though the Uncharted story seemed to have ended, and Sony confesses that bringing a new IP to the market is actually very difficult because name recognition is a big deal. When you already recognize the name, it's easier for you to make a purchase because it's something from your past experience. So maybe something needs to, be spun off from the Uncharted universe, and we need to see exactly what's going on there. And then the other third parties that do write and make single player games, Square Enix, if they will go back to that pattern, they had such a wonderful opportunity with Avengers, but they decided to go the MMO route, which lost them money. So I guess they've also learned a lesson there. They need to go back and hone down what really makes them a solid studio. What's given them a lot of a good reputation in the eyes of gamers. Other Final Fantasy titles, titles from even Ubisoft that do have some single player aspects to it. These companies are the ones that then come in and bolster and fluff all the reasons that players will remain in their ecosystems regardless. And this is not to just say Xbox is not doing anything. No, if you're an Xbox person, you understand why you're there. And for many of us that haven't really crossed over to the Xbox side, it's difficult for us to see that because we haven't really, really stayed in the Xbox ecosystem. So a lot of the games on the PlayStation may just not, appeal to you. And that's absolutely fine as well. I'm not sitting here trying to start a console war or whatever. I'm just here trying to talk about how these companies have positioned themselves and why I think it's very critical, because for us to understand how they position themselves, because they've done their homework and they understand who their gamers are and they understand how to reach potential markets out there. So that's pretty much the end of my video. Thanks for listening. I appreciate your time and audience. Let me know what you think in the comment section. I mean, don't start a console war because people can't even get one anyways. It's a challenge. There's scalpers everywhere. Just let me know which you would gravitate towards. And if you're a PC gamer, let's just do a hypothetical situation. Let's just say if you didn't play on a PC or if somebody tossed a console at you, which one would you want to hit you in the face? Peace out.